Hey folks, this is Bastin Slot with yet more behind the scenes news from the filming of Jurassic World 4, i.e. Jurassic World Rebirth. We've got noises, sound effects, we've got an interesting new logo that we're going to talk about in just a second, and maybe some news from Frank Marshall, the producer of the film. As per usual, today's video is very much speculative. We're really trying to draw information from as little as possible. Please do take everything I say here with a big old truckload of salt, but I do find this kind of thing fun to do. So if you do too, come along with me and let's check out all this new information. Before we dig in, I want to give credit for all the images and videos you're about to see in today's video to @BiggestStroker over on Twitter. It's a reference to The Strokes, okay? At least I believe it's a reference to the band The Strokes. Okay, we're going to start things off pretty low-key. We've just got a few general behind-the-scenes sort of photos. What you can see here in the middle of this one is the luxury cruising sort of yacht that we talked about in last week's video as well. This is currently being prepped for a new aquatic tank where they'll be able to film scenes, assumedly out on the ocean. This is again why Malta is so popular for filming these ocean scenes. As you can see, the water tank is right by the water, right by the coastline. So you can film your ship on this water tank and you can have the horizon of the ocean stretching out behind you. So what we can glean from this is that this pleasure vessel, boat, whatever you want to call it, is going to be out on the open water, out in the oceans. We're going to go through these fairly quick, there's not much to say. We've got some big old blue screens being moved around, you know, put these on giant cranes and giant plimps so you can kind of move them behind various things for various different shots. Just some cool general behind the scenes kind of stuff going on here, and a nice wide open shot again of the filming going on. You can see gigantic swathes of blue screens there, and this is of course behind the military vessel that we saw last week as well. We'll be talking about that again in a little bit. But here's where things get a little bit more interesting. So zooming in on one of these shots, we can see what looks to be part of that same military vessel. You can see the camo sort of patterning. We've got the light grey and the dark grey alternating striping. And the interesting thing about this is actually this right here. So if we zoom in, you can see we've got this interesting little logo. Now this is part of the ship. This is going to be on the ship. This is part of the movie design. And it's a little hard to make out exactly what it is here. So we've got another screenshot if we just click over here. So as you can see here, and I believe this is at the back of the same vessel, we can see that logo once again. And if we zoom in on it, it looks to be a C with a little dot in the middle. Maybe it's not meant to be C, maybe it's like meant to be the Earth or something like that. And then sort of an up-ticking arrow, all contained within a sort of rounded rectangular box sort of logo frame. Now this is a new logo to the franchise, this is not something any of us recognise, but what I think is actually interesting about this, because this is quite hard to really glean any information from, right? It's hard to figure too much out from a logo like this, other than suggesting there's a new company involved in dinosaurs or travel or something to do with the new film. But the more interesting angle of this, for me, is that this is found on the military ship, and that would suggest that it's not a governmental military ship, that it's a private military ship, that it's off market, that it's, you know, a private contractor or something like that. It suggests that it's not owned by the government. We're not seeing flags of certain countries, we're seeing a private company logo featured twice on the ship. So we can glean a little bit of story intel from things like this by piecing together the pieces. Likewise, if we go back a previous pic here and we take a look at the back of the boat where we saw the logo, we can see there's a giant tank, there's lots of craney sort of materials. It looks like maybe a diving cage or a holding cell, or I don't know what's going on here. Maybe it's a lift or something. Maybe it looks like there's a bit of an engine there at the side, like a battery engine or something to raise or lower something down. Either way, especially with the tank and stuff, this again feels very aquatic focused. It feels maybe designed to capture something in the water. Might take a little stab here and suggest that they're going to go and try to catch... I'm going to suggest the Spinosaurus, but that's because I'm huffing on the copium. It feels to me like maybe this military vessel is designed to go out into the ocean and capture something that's swimming out there. And that kind of tracks with a lot of the stuff we've seen so far. There's been a big focus on aquatic filming at this point in time, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of the lead-in to the film. And Masharala Ali, whose name I've inevitably butchered, I'm so sorry, I believe is playing the villain in this film and has been seen on this same ship. So of course that ties into a Jurassic World ethos in general, where you've got black market people, you've got people poaching, you've got people hunting down these creatures, and they're going to play villains, as we've seen since all the way back in the Lost World Jurassic Park. So it doesn't look like much, but you start to piece the various things together, and it starts to form a bit of a wider picture, in my opinion at least. All speculative, as I say. Speaking of speculative, some of you will hear something here, and some of you definitely will not. So this is a little bit up in the air. I'm going to just play you this video clip, uncommented. Let's see if you can hear anything. Now, it's a little hard to tell. Of course, we've got wind, we've got breathing, all that kind of jazz. But at about the midway point, and we're going to isolate it in just a second, there is a more high-pitched sort of noise. Now, initially I thought it was just the whistling of the wind, but you never really hear that at any other point. And it does sound like it could possibly be an animal cry. Of course, you wouldn't expect any sound effects filmed in this circumstance to be in the final film. You're putting sound effects in so actors have something to react to. You know, you don't want them to react to nothing. You throw the sound effects in and then you replace them in post. I'm just going to isolate that little bit of the clip for you again and just maybe there's something there. Could that possibly be the cry of a pteranodon? Could that possibly be the cry? It's something high-pitched, maybe something has stowed away on the boat. That's quite a thing in Jurassic Park, of course. We had baby raptors stowing away on boats as far back as the original Jurassic Park novel. This is a stretch, I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I'm just bringing you all the information and trying to get something from it, you know? And if I'm honest, I wanted to mess around and try to make a wave audio thing, which I've never done before in my life. I learned how to do that today, so I'm just practicing my video editing skills more than anything else. Okay, just one more thing to take a look at. Now, I have pushed very hard in these videos the idea that they're filming in Malta simply for the water tanks. So far, that is still the case as far as we know. As far as we can see, there hasn't been any filming in the streets of Malta. They've not called for extras. They've not like cordoned off parts of the city in Valletta in order to get their filming done. Nothing has occurred anywhere that would suggest they're actually using Malta itself as a backdrop. However, just to throw a little bit of a mix in there, Frank Marshall, who was of course the producer for Jurassic World Rebirth, has said this on Twitter. Moving into my new office in Malta, I hear there's a dino black market somewhere in Valletta. Now, of course, Valletta and Malta is where the black market was in Jurassic World Dominion. It might just be a fun little reference. It might be a suggestion that the black market is going to come back in some form in Jurassic World Rebirth. Again, kind of tying in with that big military ship, the Capturer, vaguely capturing looking equipment, private contractors on military ships. That could definitely tie in with a black market sort of idea. So whilst I would still suggest they're not going to use Malta as a backdrop, and whilst I would still suggest that they're not going to be like refilming in the black market, at least until we see some sort of evidence of filming or some sort of evidence of casting calls and stuff like that, this is interesting to know, if nothing else, and we'll keep an eye on it. It may well just be used as a theme or like as a sort of offhand mention. You know, someone will say, there's a black market in Malta, let's capture this, let's sell it there, blah, blah. You know, you'd write the dialogue a lot better than that, but the point is, it could be mentioned as part of the story without having to feature in the story as a location. Anyway, that's all we have for this week. A big shout out to the biggest stroker, who is a humongous fan of the Strokes, for all the information, for all the videos and stuff like that. I'm not pretending this is a huge thing. I'm not trying to say that anything here is factual. Everything is theories, speculation, pulling from small bits of information and trying to tie it all together. Please don't take anything I've said here as anything more than rumour. But again, I enjoy doing this kind of thing, and I think some of you at home enjoy listening to it and maybe coming up with your own theories. So feel free to let me know down below. Most curious if any of you heard anything animal cry related during that video from before. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I will see you lovely folks very, very soon. Hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Cheers much as always. Bye bye.